Joey Heatherton, a sex kitten in the mold of Ann-Margret from the 1960s, was a huge hit with audiences and aired frequently on television. Heatherton's work was everywhere back then, but nowadays you hardly ever come across any of her projects. Stay tuned as we bring you all the details about why Joey disappeared like she never existed. Anyone who was present when Joey Heatherton was at the height of her powers and witnessed her slink around a stage singing "I've Got Your Number" while standing at 5'5" tall will attest to her captivating presence. Joey was born and raised in Rockville Center, New York, by a father and mother who were both in the entertainment industry, so she was always surrounded by that special glow. She became famous in the 1960s and 70s for her dancing on television shows and her work with the United Service Organization, the USO. Her talents as a singer, dancer, actor, and TV personality made her a sought-after performer on shows like The Dean Martin Show and The Mike Douglas Show. But eventually, scandal dogged her in the following decades, and she eventually faded from the spotlight. She enjoyed an early rise to fame. Davini Joanna Heatherton has been a lifelong New Yorker. She went by the nickname Joey, as it was a mixture of her two names, Davini and Johanna, which was her middle name. Heatherton went to St. Agnes Academy, a Roman Catholic elementary and secondary school. She began her training in ballet at the Dixon McAfee School of Dance when she was just 6, continued it for 4 years with George Balanchine, and then branched out into modern jazz, dance, voice, and theater. Heatherton started out in showbiz when she was just a kid. She debuted on television on The Merry Mailman, a well-liked kids program in New York that belonged to her father. She joined the original Broadway cast of The Sound of Music in 1959 at age 15 and served as an understudy for the role of Maria. That same year, she became known across the country for the first time in her role as an enthusiastic adolescent with a never-ending infatuation with Perry Como on The Perry Como Show. She also released her first song that year titled That's How It Goes / I'll Be Seeing You. But neither it nor any of the 3 other singles she put out over the next few years were successful. In 1960, Heatherton made her way back to Broadway with a small but memorable role alongside Jane Fonda in the flimsy There Was a Little Girl. Heatherton's first television work as a serious actress came the same year when she appeared in an early episode of Route 66 as an affluent, pampered kid. Heatherton's sexy kid appearance made her a go-to casting choice for roles involving wayward teens in the early 60s. She then began a career as a dancer, appearing on shows like Hullabaloo and The Tonight Show, where she famously showed Johnny Carson the Frug. Her seductive approach was called sleazy sensuality by critics, and the accusation that she was a cheap imitation of Ann-Margret followed her around like a bad dream. But that didn't stop her from winning over legions of devoted followers.
This video is brought to you by Shaker and Spoon. Shaker and Spoon is a monthly cocktail subscription box that delivers the craft cocktail experience right to your front door. Each month, you'll receive a box with 3 unique recipes in them. You'll get to try out different liquors and quality ingredients without having to individually purchase all of the items. I ordered the Begin Again box, which features gin-based cocktail recipes. I was really impressed by the quality of the ingredients, which ranged from fresh rosebuds to delicious syrups and garnishes. The first recipe I tried was for a cocktail called Play It Cool. The recipe card was super easy to follow, and it's without a doubt one of the most delicious cocktails I've ever made at home. So if you're interested in delicious, complex drinks made simple and delivered to your front door, check out Shaker and Spoon today. If you click the link below and use the code FACTSVERSE at checkout, or go to shakerandspoon.com/FACTSVERSE, you can get $20 off of your first box.
She was everywhere during her peak. And while Heatherton may be best remembered for her raunchy dance routines on late-night TV, she's appeared in several major guest roles in shows like I Spy and The Virginian, though she had a few minor TV roles before the summer of 1968 when she co-hosted the hit show Dean Martin Presents The Gold Diggers with Frank Sinatra Jr., she finally broke through to the mainstream audience. Joey Heatherton's face and body were so prevalent in the 1960s, it was impossible to turn on the TV without seeing them. She managed to find time to entertain troops in Vietnam despite her busy schedule of TV guest appearances and dance appearances on whatever shows asked for her. She participated in Bob Hope's traveling USO show from 1965 to 77, where she danced, sang, and hung out with the troops overseas. Heatherton risked her safety on an improvised stage during the USO tour to bring some light relief to the lives of American soldiers serving in Vietnam. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Heatherton spent the previous decade on television before branching to other forms of entertainment in the 1970s. During her performances in Las Vegas, she appeared in commercials for Serta mattresses and RC Cola. With the publication of her first album, the Joey Heatherton album, and a role in the film Bluebeard alongside Richard Burton, Raquel Welch, and Sybil Danning, 1972 was a banner year for Heatherton. A cover of Ferlin Husky's Gone and writing her own I'm Sorry were two of the tracks that charted on Billboard's Hot 100 from her album. Heatherton's film career didn't go as smoothly as that of her contemporaries, which perhaps explains why she's less well known now. Despite having appeared on the big screen ever since Twilight of Honor in 1963, she had never played a part in a film that endured. Her role as Xaviera Hollander in the 1977 film The Happy Hooker Goes to Washington is arguably her most well-known acting role. The aftermath of her marriage to Lance Rentzel. During her heyday, Heatherton discovered genuine love with Lance Rentzel, an NFL player. At the time, he was a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, but later played for the LA Rams. The two tied the knot in New York City in April of 1969. Rentzel was arrested in November of 1970 after he allegedly inappropriately exposed himself to a 10-year-old girl. He admitted guilt in exchange for a deferred sentence and an agreement to undergo psychiatric evaluation. To add insult to injury, Heatherton decided to divorce her husband in the midst of his circumstances. Many believe Heatherton's career was permanently damaged by her decision to file for divorce from Rentzel, and that she was never able to fully recover from the emotional trauma caused by his indiscretion. In '72, their divorce was finalized. She had quite a number of run-ins with the law. After starring in Happy Hooker and co-hosting Joey and Dad for 4 weeks that year, she essentially disappeared from the entertainment industry. Throughout the mid-'80s, she had a series of minor roles that brought her back into the spotlight. She was once charged with theft of services for failing to pay a $4,906 bill from a Long Island hotel and spa where she had stayed in 1984. She maintained her innocence during the trial. After an incident at the U.S. Passport Agency in Manhattan in 1985, in which she allegedly smacked and pulled the hair of a clerk, she was detained and charged with meddling with a government agent's duty and disturbing the peace. But by September of 1986, she'd been cleared of both counts. She was arrested once again for assault in 1986 in Hillcrest, Rockland County, New York. During a fight, she used a steak knife to stab Jerry Fisher, her ex-boyfriend and ex-manager, in the hand. A short time later, Fisher was treated at a nearby hospital and discharged. Heatherton told police her identity after being arrested, but they didn't believe her. She then gave her purse to one of the cops so they could confirm it. As the policeman was searching it, he discovered a small foil packet containing less than a gram of cocaine. In addition to assault, Heatherton was accused of misdemeanor drug possession. As she had not been informed that she had the right to decline a search of her purse, a court found in her favor in October of 1987. The charge of possession was dismissed, and a few days after charging Heatherton with assault, Jerry Fisher dropped the charges. After a long time, her name resurfaced, but it was on a charge of assault. According to court records, Joey and her neighbor, Chandra Arend, have allegedly been at war for some time over the noise of the latter's blender. Heatherton apparently didn't like the noise Chandra caused each morning, especially when she used her blender. She reportedly waited for Chandra in the lobby of their building after several attempts to silence her by banging on the ceiling failed. When she showed up, Heatherton struck her with a high-heeled shoe. However, neither Chandra nor anyone else involved has spoken publicly about the alleged assault, although she did seek and receive a restraining order. Failed comeback. The 90s and early 2000s showed that Heatherton was finished with the media. In 1997, at age 53, she appeared undressed in the April issue of Playboy, but unfortunately didn't garner much attention to cause controversy. In the early 2000s, she did make it to the big screen with a brief cameo as a religious fanatic in John Waters' 1990 Crybaby and a moderate amount of screen time in Reflections of Evil in 2002. In 2004, she re-released her only studio album, the Joey Heatherton album, but with nude cover art of herself. Unfortunately, her comeback moves weren't met with the expected response. Now it's time to hear from you. Are you a fan of Joey Heatherton? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.